Hi guys, in this episode I'm going to show you how to make a seamless pattern and a texture in Photoshop, and then how to make a pattern in Illustrator. Hi guys, and welcome to Kelvin Designs. My name is Kelvin and I design, and that's why it's called Kelvin Designs. Click right here if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel and get all these tutorials for free every time it comes out, and click right here to get all the goodies, all these free files that I'm giving away to follow up on these tutorials, follow along on this episode and every past episode as well. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make a pattern and a seamless pattern at that using Photoshop, and then we're going to go into Illustrator and we're going to see how to make a vector pattern seamless as well. We're going to take a photo of this wall here and take a little piece of it and make it a seamless pattern, and then we're going to make a houndstooth pattern using Illustrator. Really simple stuff. It only takes a few minutes, but it's really useful. Let's get started.
Hi guys, alright, so in this episode we're going to go over some patterns and seamless patterns. And if you want to get the raw files to follow along this tutorial, along all my other tutorials, just go to my website kelvindesigns.com/sign up and sign up your name and email, and you will have all the raw files to follow along this tutorial and every other one. Alright, so to start, we're actually going to start in Lightroom. And I've loaded this image, which you can download in the goodies for this episode if you sign up to the newsletter. And it's a photo of a wall I took, and my white balance is actually pretty far off. So we're just going to fix a few things before we go and transform this into a seamless pattern. So to start, I'm here in the Develop module in Lightroom, and I'm just going to take this little eyedropper and say, this is my white point. And that'll, as you can see, just change my white balance completely. And let's just go and check one other thing, which is the profile correction. And it's going to take out all the vignetting that the lens that I used to make this. So it took that out, which is pretty good. Okay, so once this is done, I'm not going to do that much more on here. And hopefully it's pretty flat, so that's pretty good. I'm just going to right-click on the image here and say Edit in Adobe Photoshop. And I'm going to let that open up. And here we go. All right, so we're in Photoshop. I'm just going to hide Lightroom for now so it's a little cleaner. And I'm going to hide the web browser. Okay, so there's a number of different ways to make this into a seamless pattern. And I'm going to show you what I usually use. Now, this is actually a pretty big photo, much bigger than usual for a pattern. And if I was actually making a background for a website or something like that, I could literally use this entire image. It's quite a bit of texture here. In most cases, you want to be able to just use a repeating pattern in a smaller format. So the first thing we got to do, a seamless pattern means that it needs to start and end seamlessly. And what that means is, just to show you, if I went in here and said offset this image, and let's just offset this by 500 by 500. It's actually not nearly enough. Let's just do 3500 by 3500, something like that. Down should be more like 2000. Okay, now you can see that the four corners don't match at all. Different colors, different shades, different luminosity and all that, so it doesn't work out. All right, so I'm going to cancel this out. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a duplicate of this layer, and I'm going to invert it, so image, and it's actually Command I, so like this. And I'm going to right click here and convert to Smart Object. And the only reason I'm doing this is because if I do any effects on a smart object, I can, like a Gaussian blur, I can go and manipulate that effect. I'll show you in a second. Here I'm going to turn this into overlay mode. And then I'm going to go and add a Gaussian blur and blur that out quite a bit. And I want to get decent detail, but I want to get rid of any color changes. All right. So if I go too close, I'm losing a lot of my grain. If I go a little higher, I maintain that grain, but I'm flattening out the color. So there you go. So show you. And now you see this Gaussian blur here. It's a smart object, so I can just double click in here if I want to go back and make a modification. I can still do that, as opposed to just a standard filter that's applied. This is actually non-destructive. All right, so if I go before and after, and it's better. It's not perfect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command Alt Shift E, and that's going to make a new layer of the visible. And we're going to see what the offset looks like now. And we'll do another 3500, and what would we do, 2000 or something like that. All right, so we're much better. We're still not perfect, but we're much better. Now, granted, we're only going to use a piece of this. We don't want to use the entirety. It's a huge file. It's 25%. I mean, let's take a look at the pixel size here, 5,000 by 3,400. It's much more than we need. So for this, what we're going to do is simply take a smaller piece, and with the marquee tool here, I'm going to click, hold down, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and that way I'm making a perfect square, and take something like this. Oh, I have a fixed size. I'm going to go to normal and deselect, Command D, and make a square here. And I'm going to try to take something that's doesn't have any huge marking, something that if repeated 1,000 times or a lot of times, doesn't just stand out. So try to take something neutral. I'll try something like this, and then I will copy this, either here, copy, or Command C, and then I will create a new file. And it's basically has already the information from what I copied. Hit OK, and then I can paste. All right, so this is my texture, and I still would have an issue. Let's make this a little simpler. Let's make this 800 by 800, and the 240 doesn't really matter at this point. I just reduced it a little bit. That way it's round numbers and it's easier. And if I were to go and say filter and offset it now, I'm going to do 400 by 400, so it's really half and half. I'm much closer. I don't have that many anomalies, but you can still see that it's not seamless. So let's just make a duplicate of this just so we can go back if we need to. And so you're going to go and filter, other, offset, and we're going to do 400 and 400. Make sure that wraparound is on there, and hit OK. Now, I can simply take the clone stamp tool over here, and I'm going to clone out some of these lines. All right. If I right click, I can see what I have. I have 33. I don't want my hardness to be too soft. I want it to be kind of in between. Too soft will make for blurred detail, which I don't really want. And 33 is about right. So hit return, and then now I hold down the Alt key to say where I'm sampling from, something like here. And then I'm going to go in here and brush, take it from here, brush over here, and all the way up to the top, and do it over here as well. So hold Alt, I'm making it so you cannot see where those pieces meet. All right, something like this, and then I take it over here, all the way to the end, and then down the middle here. Okay, and then now theoretically, if I were to say filter and offset again, let's just do 250 by 250. I shouldn't be able to see any, I shouldn't see where it meets. It's all 450 by 450. I can't tell where it's joining. So if I do 400 by 400, it's perfectly in the center, and really I cannot see where they meet. So I actually have a seamless pattern at this point. So if I go and I select all, so Command A, and I go to Edit, and I hit Define Pattern, and I'll call this Sandstone, hit OK. Now, if I were to go back here, deselect, I'll make a new layer, and let's just, with default colors, put white in the front, and I'll delete to fill that with white. If I double click on here and say Pattern Overlay, so I'm now accessing all my patterns, and these are pre-built ones from Photoshop, but the last one over here is the one I just did. And as you can tell, you cannot see where they start, and you can see that there's a repeating pattern here, but it's seamless. So we've created a seamless pattern, and I can make this bigger or smaller, and they are seamless. All right, so now we have, whoops, I should have just hit OK on that. And if I go back in here hit OK. I now have that seamless pattern. And that is how you make a seamless pattern in Photoshop. All right, and in Illustrator, we're going to create a pattern in Illustrator. Illustrator has a really cool tool, and let's just go into Illustrator over here, and we can actually hide Photoshop for now. And if we create a new document, let's just make this web for now, just to make it easy. We'll make it 1080 by 800. Doesn't really matter for this. And I want to show you how to create a seamless pattern vector, which means it's not pixels. And I actually pulled up in Google Images. I did a search here for houndstooth. It's a pretty common pattern, and I want to essentially just duplicate this, but as a vector pattern. So I mean, this is a pretty standard pattern. I can take it from anywhere. I'm going to simply make a screenshot. So in Mac, it's Command Shift 3, and I've made a screenshot. You can see it over here. So I can now go in here and place, and I go to my desktop, and this is my screenshot. Okay, and I'm going to place it in here. Okay, I actually don't need all this. I just wanted to make it easy to trace this. If I go to my layers, I can just go and lock this layer, make a new layer, and now whatever I draw on top will be, I can't move around this image. So this is just temporary. So let's, to start off, whatever the pattern is going to be, which in this case it's going to be the shape right here. So I'll just take the pen tool and make sure that I have black, or actually make sure I have no stroke. And to make it easier to see, we'll, instead of using black, let's just make a green color, something like this. And actually, no fill, let's make it outline. That way we can see a little better what we're doing. All right, so I can click, and if I hold down the Shift key, it maintains a 45-degree angle, so 90, 45, etc. So I'm going to go here, hold it down, click right there, and then click right there. And pretty simple stuff, something like this. All right, I'm going to leave it at that, and then I'm going to actually, I should have taken, I'm going to click here to continue that, go right there, somewhere here, and I've made half of it. All right, so now I've made this half, and I actually want, I'm going to use a pretty cool little tool in Illustrator. If I go to the appearance, here we go, I can say create an effect, and I'm going to hit transform. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in a little bit, just to make it a little easier to see here. Command plus to zoom in. And now if I go to effect and distort, transform, and I'm going to say I would like one copy, hit the preview button, and let's just move it a little bit for now, see what we're dealing with. So I made one copy, I want it to reflect, and then I want it to rotate by 90 degrees. And hard for me to see what we're doing here. Let's just move it over a little bit. Okay, and if I reflect, and it looks like it needs to be minus 90. There we go. Okay, so now I have a perfect reflection at that right angle, so I can just move this over until it meets the middle, which looks like it's this, 18 pixels in this case. And now I have a perfect reflection, so hit OK, and I can actually fill it. And this is where I reveal that it's not a perfect reflection. So click on a transform again, and instead of 18, let's try 17. Hit the preview button here. That looks pretty accurate. Okay, hit OK, and I want this to be expanded now. I don't want it to just, it's right now, this is the only shape. I want it to include the reflection I've created. So I go to Object and Expand Appearance. So now I have both. And if I go to my layers, I can open this up and I can see that it's actually a group made of groups. So I don't want all that. So I'm going to click on this and Command Shift G to ungroup and do the same again. So now I have two clean paths. Except you can see that in the middle here, it's not quite perfect. So I'm going to take the white arrow tool, select, I really have two paths in there, I have two anchor points rather, and I'm going to hit Command J to join. And you can do this by going to Path, Join, and do the same thing over here, Object, Path, Join. Okay, so now I know that it's a single shape, and we're good. So once you have this done, I can select this, and we can actually hide this other layer, make this a easier color to look at, something like black, and zoom out a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the object and pattern make. Okay, it says the new pattern has been added to the swatches panel, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so thank you. It's going to make a new pattern. And now this pattern creator is pretty incredible. It's telling me the size of my pattern, but essentially I want this to be closer. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit again here. If I look at the pattern that we took originally, you see that it's a continuous line. The black and the white seem to replicate itself. So right now this is much bigger. So to do that, you actually have to shrink this. So let's go and test this out. 40 by 40 seems like it's too much. So let's try 45 by 45. And you can play with this until 46. I'm using the up and down arrows here up to, that looks pretty close. So 47 by 47 pixels actually looks accurate, and I've created a pattern. Now there are many other options here. I can space it out differently and so on, but for this pattern, this is the right option. So I hit done, and now if I zoom out, and if I were to create a rectangle over here, let's close this, and if I go to my swatches here, I have this new pattern I created. Look at that. And so now I can have this pattern. It's pretty simple to use, and that is how simple it is to make a pattern in Illustrator. And there you go.
All right, guys, I hope you liked that episode, and please share this episode if you like it, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and sign up to the newsletter if you want the goodies to follow along with this tutorial. I'll see you in the next episode.